Welcome to Digest, your fortnightly science from the Bioeconomy Science Institute.
Kia ora koutou and welcome to Digest. Most people have heard of human rights. They've probably heard of civil rights, women's rights, and maybe even animal rights. What if I told you that plants can also have rights? Well, apart from the right to remain silent, obviously, which plants are really good at exercising that particular right. But to be more precise, today we're going to talk plant variety rights. And our guest today to lead us through this is Emma Brown. Kia ora, Emma, and welcome to Digest.
Kia ora, Andrew.
Okay, let's start with some basics. So, in a nutshell, if you can, what actually is a plant variety right and what's its purpose?
So a plant variety right is the right that we are able to obtain. It's the intellectual property right on a plant variety.
And why do we have them?
A plant variety right gives the holder of that right a limited monopoly. We refer to it as an exclusionary right, which means that we have the opportunity as the holder of the right to manage the propagation, the cultivation, the sale of the harvested material, so fruits, vegetables, cut flowers, for a period of time, a limited monopoly. So depending on the species, it might be 20, 25, or even 30 years.
So you can see this is like a protective role that it has, and hopefully as we get through the podcast, people will understand why it's really important. I mean, it sounds very high level, but actually this relates in real life to what we do in New Zealand and how we basically make money. So where do you fit into here? I mean, you're a plant variety rights manager at Plant Food Research. How did you get into that?
Yeah. I have a Master's of Science and was actually studying a PhD in plant physiology and decided that wasn't the path for me.
I can't imagine why. Research is so much fun.
It's super fun to work with researchers, I find. So I had the opportunity to apply for a role at Plant and Food Research at the time in the field of intellectual property coordination, so filing all of our plant variety rights. Thought it sounded fascinating and was appointed in the role, and I've never looked back.
Cool. Can you explain to us the difference between a plant variety and a cultivar? I mean, I get confused on this all the time, and I use the words interchangeably, but I know that's wrong. Can you help? Can you help me? Can you help your listeners to work out what belongs with what?
It's okay to use them interchangeably for the most part. Language matters, of course, and it's a really interesting question, I think, and a conversation that we have with our communications team. So if you're talking to a taxonomist, variety has a really strict botanical meaning. If you're talking to farmers or growers or plant breeders, variety often means cultivar, even though botanically it's not quite the same. In botany, a variety is natural. In plant variety law, a variety is the legal unit of protection. It's almost always a human-created cultivar. That's the really long version, but I'll forgive you for using them interchangeably.
Yeah, it's obviously there's a lot of nuances behind it, but I'm relieved to hear that I'm not going to be punished for using the wrong one.
Not at all.
In my next report. Okay, so what are some examples of plant varieties in New Zealand? Like I'm in the supermarket, I'm in the fruit and veggie aisle. What would I see there that currently has a plant variety right on it?
Do you happen to have a favourite apple?
Yeah, I do actually. Jazz is probably my favourite. Maybe Envy, second favourite.
Awesome. For me, I'd put them in the other order. Envy is my favourite.
Jazz is the king of apples.
It's a good answer.
Yeah.
So the varieties that you've mentioned, those are the brand names. For varieties that Plant and Food Research actually bred, or our predecessors bred. So Envy's the brand name for the variety Silate, and the brand name is owned by our exclusive licensee Venture Fruit through T&G Global. And we own the plant variety right that sits under that called Silate.
I can see where they didn't roll with Silate for like a brand name. Okay, so why do plant varieties need protecting, and why is it important? So getting down to, I guess, the reason why we have these things in the first place.
Yeah, so breeding at new varieties is a super long game and requires a really significant investment. Breeding alone is often actually not sufficient to deliver the full impact that's possible from a variety or cultivar. It takes a really wide range of skills, drawing from a wide range of the many aspects that our institute can deliver. So physiology, post-harvest, pathology, entomology, and of course commercialization comes into it as well. So there's a significant investment of resource required to develop and deliver a new variety. Protecting that IP that we've developed through utilisation of plant variety rights, through trademarks to protect those brands as well, it means that we've got the opportunity to license those varieties and secure a share of benefit from the production, which enables us to share in the benefit delivered by the varieties and enables us to continue to invest in the development of not only new varieties but the wider R&D around them.
So it's just, I guess, like many products that require a lot of research and background work to get them to the market. You need to kind of get some of that return back into the research system and the development system and the breeding system in this case. Otherwise, it all falls over, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. And we try and work on sharing in the benefit of the impact delivered by that intellectual property.
And as a country, we're like pretty dependent on horticulture now for a lot of our overseas earnings. So having plant variety rights, is this a really important thing in terms of the proportion of export earnings that come into the country?
Yeah, it is. So when we talk about our export earnings and the government's stated goals of doubling the value of export earnings in the next 10 years, we're really talking about high value proprietary varieties through high value horticulture.
I think I read that I think 2 billion, this is quite a few years ago, 2 billion out of 2.6 billion of Zesperi's money comes through fruit that's protected by plant variety rights.
Yeah, about 75% of the value is delivered by proprietary varieties in that kiwifruit space.
Yeah, that's astonishing, isn't it, really? And you can see the value of it just there. I'm assuming that this is not just a New Zealand thing. Is this a global practice? And do things work the same way in other countries with plant variety rights?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a global practice, but the legislation is different globally. And so for us, as we're working internationally and commercialising our plant varieties internationally, we have to be across the different forms of legislation in all of the countries that we and our customers and partners want to work in.
That must be quite a legal minefield, I'm guessing, in terms of all the different regulations and stuff within different countries.
Yeah, it is. So we have a really skilled team within the plant varieties team and work really closely with our IP manager within the plant varieties team, as well as subject matter experts around the world to understand the requirements in the different countries that we're protecting and commercialising in.
Okay, from what you've just described, it sounds like quite a complex global environment. Is there like a sort of a international organisation where plant variety rights experts get together for a wine and a robust debate on cultivar versus variety?
Yeah, there sure is. It's called Seapora, and Plant and Food Research are a long-standing member. Seapora is a community of breeders of asexually reproduced horticultural plants.
I can see why you went with Seapora.
That's right. And even the name starts to become a little technical, doesn't it? And there's nothing we love more than a good debate over varieties versus cultivars. What's an EDV over a good glass of wine?
Okay, I'm really interested in about how this is done at like the practical level. Could you talk us through how your team would go about deciding if let's stick with apples, deciding if a new apple can be protected and how this would play out? Like, how would you decide if something that's come out of our breeding program can get plant variety rights?
So the application process, it involves a bit of paperwork, unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
And you're required to have a few specific details. So you have to have a unique name, so like that unique name Silate for the apple variety.
Yep.
That's called a denomination, and that's the legal name for the new plant variety. You have to pay a fee, also unsurprisingly.
Yep.
You also have to prove that your new variety is just that. It needs to be new. So we refer to that as novelty. So it can't have been sold in the country that you're protecting in for more than 12 months before you file your application. And it varies by species and by country, but generally we work on a 4 to 6 year time frame around the rest of the world. If you've had a sale in one country, you need to file within 4 to 6 years for your protection in another country. So then it also needs to be distinct, uniform and stable. So your new variety needs to be distinct from all other existing varieties in that species. And we determine that distinctness through a morphological description. It also needs to be uniform. So among a population, the plants must be largely the same. And it has to be stable. So those defining characteristics of the new variety have to propagate through subsequent generations, true to type. So that's what we refer to as DUS, distinct, uniform and stable.
And I guess it has to be stable depending on also where it's grown. You can't have like a redder apple that's grown in somewhere where that's kind of warmer or cooler or whatever.
Yeah, exactly right.
So it sounds like it's quite a detailed process and requires a lot of knowledge from different specialists, like in terms of fruit shape phenology and stuff, and also all the legal stuff behind it as well.
Yeah, that's right.
It also sounds quite expensive. So the individual breeder or person who's come up with the apple pays for the PVR? Is it an expensive process? Is it something that like a small production person could do?
Yeah, and there's a really wide range of the scale of breeders around the world. Obviously, the Bioeconomy Science Institute, we're a large player in this field, but there are anything from backyard breeders through to multinational breeding companies. It's not an inexpensive exercise. Mm-hmm. And we really carefully work through our commercialisation strategies alongside our intellectual property protection strategies to make sure that we're making a good investment in securing that IP.
Yeah, so you've got to be pretty sure if it's worth going down that road kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm also kind of interested in like how this is actually plays out. How's it enforced? Like hypothetically speaking, asking for a friend, say I bought some envy from a supermarket, planted the seeds and called them, let's say, Sigest Delight. That's a good name for an apple. How would that be picked up? Like, could I get away with saying that this is a new thing? And I mean, how are you going to enforce that?
So that's entirely within your rights to do that. That's called the breeder's right. And you are entirely within your rights to legitimately purchase a piece of fruit and plant out the seeds. Now, those seeds are not going to propagate true to type. They'll be generally open pollinated and will not produce the same variety as that beautiful silate piece of fruit that you purchased from the supermarket. You are within your rights to plant those out, evaluate them, and select a new variety from within them. We all stand on the shoulders of giants from the varieties that have been bred before us.
That's a really good answer, Emma. So I'm going to ask the question in a different way. Asking for another friend this time. What say I went into an orchard, snipped off a growing shoot from an envy apple, took it home, grafted it onto a rootstock, and made a whole lot of them, and then sold those apples.
Now, that's when I would become upset with you, Andrew.
Excellent.
Or your friend, sorry.
That's the answer. Yeah, my friend. Yeah. So how would this get picked up? I guess I'm just interested in, like, is there like an enforcement process? Is there people watching on the ground to see if these things are... Talk us through that.
So unfortunately, we don't have eyes everywhere. We're a small team. What we do rely on is our customers and partners. Our best tool for enforcement is a good actor. Nothing upsets a grower and a good actor more than a bad actor. And so we ideally get notified by our customers and our partners and our fantastic network of growers that are working legitimately with our varieties if there has been somebody who has unfortunately sought to go outside of that legitimate pathway.
Yeah, so you kind of rely a lot on the people within the industry and,
We do.
and eyes within that.
We do.
I guess it's a fairly sort of tight-knit group of people, so I guess people notice. What about people who, I mean, this is slightly controversial, but what about people who say that, okay, in the New Zealand example, the New Zealand taxpayer pays for some of the research that's done by CRIs, probably less and less these days. Why should the New Zealand growers have to pay for PVRs, given that our taxes are paying for these things to be developed in part?
Yeah, it is very much in part. And we work really hard within the commercialisation pathways and the customers and partners that we're working with to provide a wide range of opportunities for a wide range of growers. So we will commercialise through different models, whether that be through a global exclusive opportunity like Silate, or in a non-exclusive opportunity that's open and available to a wide range of growers with no controls on the management of that harvested material. We even commercialise through into the home garden market, and we have commercialisation relationships with nurseries where home gardeners can go and purchase premium new varieties for their own production.
Okay, so it's not like a one-size-fits-all approach. There's tailored solutions depending on who's involved in this process.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And if we reflect again on the investment required to take something from being a new variety through to being something that is a global, nearly billion-dollar brand like Envy, it's not only the investment from Plant and Food Research or the Bioeconomy Science Institute in the development of that new variety. It's also the investment from our commercialisation partners to deliver the full impact of those varieties.
Yeah, we are just part of the story, I guess.
Yeah, we are.
Not the full story. Okay, so sticking with New Zealand, I guess we have a slightly unique situation here in terms of the role of Māori as kaitiaki, or traditional guardians of some of the species we have here, and particularly the indigenous species. Are there any provisions for the protection of taonga species from commercialisation by non-Māori entities within this system?
Yeah, there are. And over the past few years, New Zealand have been working through a review of our plant variety rights system, and we implemented a new Plant Variety Rights Act in 2022. We were able, as a country, to build in a reasonably unique provision globally within that new Plant Variety Rights Act, which enables and encourages engagement by plant breeders with kaitiaki of taonga. Now, taonga species are, for the purposes of the Plant Variety Rights Act, defined within that act as Indigenous species and non-Indigenous species of significance, of which there's quite a specific list in the regulations. And that means that when an applicant for a new variety applies for a variety that is Indigenous or of that list of non-Indigenous species of significance, they're required under the legislation to have engaged with the kaitiaki and to understand the potential impact of protecting a new variety within that set.
Okay, so there is some consultation, there is some sort of stuff ring-fenced off for that, and I guess we haven't reached the sort of benefit sharing portion of that necessarily, but there is progress, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, when you go down the fruit and veggie aisle, there seems to be an almost overwhelming array of different varieties of apples with different names like Snazzle, Dazzle, Wazzle. I don't know who comes up with these names. So a question is, why do we need new varieties of these fruits and vegetables all the time? Why can't we just stick to good old-fashioned Granny Smith every year?
I mean, Secretly, I actually still like Granny Smith.
Wow, you like the first... There's like a niche group of humans on the planet that eat Granny Smith. I think it's you keeping this brand going. So
And my children, they're really quite into it.
It's one of the worst. Anyway.
So there's no such thing as the perfect variety. We operate in a world of continual change, and our plant varieties need to change to keep pace with those. So just thinking about some of those changes in our environment, our climate is changing, consumer wants and needs change, we have new pest and disease incursions, countries change positions and policies on the use of sprays. Our global population is growing. This puts pressure on land use, food demand. So we seek to improve productivity and improve optimizing land, water and nutrient use. New varieties aren't the only answer to those challenges, and the Bioeconomy Science Institute is a leader in a wide range of research and development addressing these and other challenges across the value chain and wider bioeconomy. Plant varieties, though, do have a significant role to play in meeting some of those challenges.
Is there also an element of like, if you come up with a new product, you get that immediate engagement with it? It's a bit like fast fashion, you keep churning out new lines every season, and after a while the popularity drops off after 4 or 5 years and you come out with a new one.
Yeah. Some crops can be like that, like hops, for example, or ornamental varieties for cut flowers. That's much more like a fast fashion environment. Most of the crops that we work in, though, are pretty long-lived and take a really long time to get bulked up, just in terms of the plant material availability. The plant material distribution around the world takes us years, and then growers need to evaluate the new plant varieties in their environments and understand how they're going to perform for them, as well as how the consumers are going to respond to the new fruits and vegetables. So it takes a really long time from even the delivery of that plant material and the establishment of an orchard for you to see that new fruit through into the supermarket, so you can make your choices between Granny Smith or some of the new varieties.
Yeah, it's not really feasible to do fast fashion with something that grows so slowly like an apple or something like that, really, is it?
Yeah, that's right.
So you've got to have a long sort of burn on it. Since you've been at Plant and Food, is there like one project that you've been involved in with plant variety rights that you're particularly proud of, like getting over the line, that you'd like to use as like your headline story?
That's like asking me to choose my favourite child.
I thought you were going to say that, yeah.
I've had the privilege of being involved in quite a wide range of projects, from commercialising new raspberry varieties through dragon fruit varieties, potatoes. One that really stands out for me and is a real happy place for me is the Hot Climate Partnership. That's our partnership between Plant and Food Research with Bioeconomy Science Institute, now ERTA, a Catalonian research institute, Fruit Future, a Catalonian grower cooperative, and Venture Fruit as our commercialisation partner. We started the Hot Climate Partnership long before I started at Plant and Food, more than 20 years ago, to breed new apples and pears for the hot climate in Catalan, Spain. We've now released the first 2 varieties from that partnership, and they're the first 2 apple varieties that have been specifically bred for a warm and warming climate. Turns out when we started that more than 20 years ago, it was a really good idea. And there's even more opportunity and demand from growers around the world for varieties that are suited to a hot summer. And that's been really personally engaging project and partnership to be involved in.
Yeah, that's a really cool story because it kind of ticks a lot of boxes in terms of its involvement with response to climate change. For those who don't know, like Apple doesn't like having lots of particularly hot nights or warm nights. And to get it to colour up, it needs those cooler nights that you get, I guess, in the Hawke's Bay during the early summer and then the warm days. So it probably doesn't. I think I've seen apples that are growing in Spain and they just don't colour up like they do here.
That's right. They tend to be quite washed out. They're not the beautiful bright reds that we do develop in the Hawke's Bay, and the fruit tends to be softer. So the new varieties do colour. They have beautiful, crisp, modern textures, and it also means that growers are getting a higher return from the production of those new varieties and less fruit waste.
I guess that's all knowledge that we might be using here in New Zealand one day too, if climate change continues at the rate it is. I've just noticed actually going through this podcast, like all our examples have been like apple examples. And I was thinking like, why is that? And it's like, well, you work in the Hawke's Bay, you've got this kind of geographical skew. And my life is apples, really. My whole science stuff is apples. So this is a bad choice on Martin's part altogether. Anyway,
we can talk about potatoes if you'd like.
No, I think apples are good examples. We can, because the final question's another apple-related one. We're on the cusp of some seismic shifts, it seems, in plant breeding. We've seen the adoption of gene editing technologies in some parts of the world. Can you comment on how this new technology will impact on something, well, basically deciding if something is a new variety or not? Like, is a gene-edited Royal Gala apple, to use another apple example, still Royal Gala, or is it going to be classified as something different?
So you thought we were getting into the nitty-gritty of the detail before. Now you're diving really
into...
We're
in the subterranean detail.
Yeah. So the technical term for that would be an EDV, an essentially derived variety. So your edited Royal Gala would be an essentially derived variety of Royal Gala. And in the apple world, we have a colloquial term for that. They're called sports. So if you think about your Royal Gala apple, that's actually a sport of the initial variety Gala. So the development through gene editing of potentially edited apple varieties is actually just an extension of something that occurs naturally within apples. Anyway, so we've been thinking about how to manage EDVs long before gene editing. And so within the plant variety rights space, there is already practice around how we manage essentially derived varieties.
So this is already something that you've already got kind of in your framework, and from sports essentially being the same thing, but just something that arises spontaneously in an orchard versus in a lab.
That's exactly right. Essentially derived varieties are a hotly debated topic, and so yes, we do have a framework around them. I expect it will continue to evolve.
I'm surprised. I was hoping that was going to be a particularly contentious question, but it sounds like you've already got it covered.
Sorry, we have given that quite a bit of thought.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a high-profile kind of technique and technology at the moment, so I guess it's something that's across everyone's radar.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I guess the sort of futuristic angle of gene editing might be a good place to finish up the podcast. Emma, thanks for being our guest on Sigest and leading us through the world of plant variety rights.
Thanks, Andrew.
I've learnt they play a critical role in protecting the work and investment that goes on to creating a new plant variety. But more importantly, they protect the livelihood of food producers, not only here in Aotearoa, but worldwide. Mā te wā, see you next time on Sigest.